Okay, good evening. We opened the meeting at 6:37 PM and proceeded through the agenda and moved into executive session. In executive session, we had a robust discussion, but made no motions, took no action or votes. And we're now ready to proceed with the rest of the meeting. So Chantel, do you see any raised hands for public comment?
No.
No. Okay. Okay, so let's turn to board administration. Do you want
The
to?
minutes of the 23rd. Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Discussion. No?
All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
good, thank you. Minutes of the November 2nd meeting.
Let's hold on those.
Okay.
I just needed to.
Hold on, no, we'll table that.
We'll hold those for the next meeting,
Table
Chantel.
next meeting.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't.
Okay. Okay, finance. This is.
We'll turn to finance, Brian and George.
Assume everyone has had a chance to read through the Meraki Smith treasurer's report. I don't think there were any surprises outstanding. They noted some of the checks which we've been going through. Pentel has been working to get those uncashed checks resolved. There's now 11 that are over 6 months outstanding. I would expect we'd have those resolved in short order, hopefully by the end of the year.
Chantel, may I ask, are those retirement aids or just vendors?
Vendors, like if they were mailed and maybe lost in the mail, or they just held on to it and never cashed it, whatever the reason, for some
Okay.
reason, a check was, or a payment was issued, but the check was never cashed.
So then do you have to reissue in that situation?
I have to call them and ask them, hey, have you ever received it? We sent it back on next day. If they say no, we did it, then yes, we would have to reach.
Sorry, Brian, thank you.
There was one noted that was a duplicate was sent and then they ended up cashing both. So we're going to request a refund, which I don't anticipate an issue there. Other than that, everything looks to be in good order.
Do we know why the second one was sent?
We sent them a duplicate and then they ended up cashing both of them.
I mean, do we know why the duplicate was sent?
I guess they have requested it. I don't know.
I'm sure
The
it was
one in the mail was getting to them too late. It was for the flood insurance. Your insurance would have canceled had they not received it, so I overnighted it. And then with the anticipation that, yes, when we receive one of them, we will cash the first one and send back the second, and they of course did not do that.
I guess going forward, we can cancel the original.
Yeah.
Thank you for making sure we didn't face cancellation, because
Yeah.
that's governmental insurance and
Yeah.
they don't
No.
give you second chances.
So they would have any questions? So I'll make a motion, the board approve the September 2023 treasurer's report prepared by Meraki Smith, including the bills as presented.
Second.
Which sentence? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. George, you in favor? Yeah. Thank you. Unanimous. Hello. Okay. We don't have friends of the library present. One thing we need to get organized, and this may be proceeding, and I may be unaware, but if not, we need to look at their calendar and allocate out those meetings and try and have one of our board present, and in a perfect world, have you dial in as well. They do accept video conference participation, which makes a late evening meeting a little more
Is this something
acceptable.
that I should contact them about?
I will
You-
send an
okay.
email and ask them to, include you in the calendar invite
Okay,
and tell them that we will also get organized and ensure that we've got a board member present.
okay.
Yeah, Bob routinely did a good job of attending those meetings regularly. They also produce good minutes, which is useful. Okay, so for the president's report, I don't have anything particularly noteworthy. We've had a number of kind of a combination of events concerning the Newcastle Police, as well as some outreach by the community that led me to reach out to council and will involve the board. I've requested a legal advisory meeting where we could discuss some of these issues with our council, so that we're better equipped to move forward. So Caroline, may I turn to you?
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And so department head,
Yeah, that should, forgive me, we'll make
Okay.
sure the minutes reflect, it should read library director.
oh, okay, no, I'm sorry, no. This is the first one that which I
Yeah.
participated, I'm not quite sure the
Yeah.
protocol, but, uh, it's been a nice 2 weeks and, everybody's been wonderful and helpful and this woman walks on water as far as we're all concerned. And so, thank you, Chantel bailing me out for stupid questions all the time. I met with the different staff people and Bill Lake who came in and there've been a couple of small issues. There was an alarm that went off on Sunday afternoon and he came in just early this morning and took a look at it and he thinks that it may be the battery pack, we think, in the back, and he's communicated with them. So I don't think he thinks it's anything serious. The water had gotten, we think he gave a demonstration of how to turn the water off under the sink in one of the bathrooms and left it off. And so there was some water issues this afternoon that he took care of. So otherwise, there's been no particular building issues. Most of what I've been doing was at your request or suggestion, going over all the policies and I
A
included.
lot of work.
Well, it's just sort of a nice exercise and you do learn a lot about libraries and there's a lot of them. So I think that the board should reaffirm those 3 policies from that were derived from the American Library Association, freedom to read, freedom to view, library bill of rights. I think that the FOIL policy, sexual harassment and pandemic, and Pam has been a great help. Thank you, Pam. With this should also be reaffirmed. And I guess that's a vote. The board needs to vote on those. There are 2 duplicate policies regarding the privacy of library records. One of them, which is very short, called confidentiality of library records, was adopted in 1985. And then privacy and confidentiality of library records policy was adopted in 2013. I propose that the first one be deleted and the second one be reaffirmed
Okay.
because they're duplicates and I don't think that you need 2 of them. And then, I think Pam brought this up, the question of display cases, that there were 3 supposedly, and I remember that from 15 years ago. And I was here that there were
Once upon a
3
time,
of them.
yeah.
Then poking around and talking to people, 2 of them, I think, at least one is in the back in storage. One of them is in the children's room that's being used. I spoke to Larry D'Amico and I went through the policy and I think there are just one sentence which has 3 display cases should be deleted from that policy. And then all displays shall be shown from 4 to 6 weeks, I think should be deleted just because it hamstrings whoever it does, right? The rest of this, I think, is just fine. It's very practical and it gives him the ability to do and these are for the community. So I mean, they ought to be used as librarians and staff want to use them. So I would propose that take place as well.
Okay.
And those are the ones that I think we should, you should, not me, well, you should reaffirm, or since there's been some language change in the last one, perhaps that means it has to be adopted. I'm not sure. So,
Okay,
I would propose that. And then as far as the rest of the policies go, there are 3 areas that I have just started to tackle. One of them is the facilities, and I'm gonna look at that because it's very long and maybe it can be compressed in some way or another. Then the financial policies and investment, there's some of them are older, some of them are newer. There were some that were adopted in 2019, some of them much earlier. I want to look at those, and each of them were adopted separately, okay? This whole thing.
And then
about
they
this
were mushed
claims
together.
audit was like one of those things
Yeah.
right there, you know? And so what I'd really like to do would be spend a little bit more time looking at them, see if I can't sort of make some sense and get rid of the duplication of those, and then make another proposal to the board. And then the third one has to do with material selection, material deselection, and the request for reconsideration. And those, I have some information from the staff that I think is really important that what they want to be is incorporated, because they're the ones who are dealing with this. And so again, we're gonna meet with Denise and Marge and just Robin and whomever else is involved in these selections. And we'll come up with some policies which basically follow the guidelines. I mean, there's no big difference. It's just fine tune them so that they work better, I think. I have but that's gonna be for another meeting. So those are the
Sure.
3 areas that I think are left to do. And I have a call tomorrow morning with Kristen Warner, the legal counsel for the library. We were supposed to talk this morning, but she is home with a sick child, herself a sick child, sick as well. And so we're talking at 10 tomorrow. And the one thing that I want to talk to her about is this question of deselection of materials, because what happens to those library books and all this stuff that gets discarded, okay? And it has to be something that deals with the practicality of how to deal with these, okay? So I'll talk to her, and I did a little bit of research myself online and spoke to my husband, who's a lawyer, who didn't want to get involved, and said, so, you know, I just want to run some of these ideas by her and see tomorrow morning.
That's great.
So we'll get back to you with those 3 sections, okay?
Can I interject on
Yeah.
policies, a few points? So Pam's supposed to be joining us in person shortly, and she manages the committee, as you know, and John's part of that as well. Our process has been to, you know, review the policies with the library director. I identify needed changes, and so thank you for the considerable work you've done. And then to present them to council for sign off. Mind you, the ones that are just an affirmation of ALA, we should not spend any council time or money in such a review. Those should be just reaffirmed as you suggest. But I just wanted to clarify that, because I don't know if all libraries work that way. The other thing I wanted to ask, when you spoke about the display cases, we are, I think you were in, no, it probably predated you. We did agree with Friends, so we moved the tree, the donor tree, to the main library. And we have agreed that they can introduce basically a display case. They're supposed to vet that, and that should now go through you.
Okay.
In terms of design, they'll probably direct us to make a purchase and then reimburse us.
Okay.
But just to be mindful that there will be another display case in the library.
Okay.
It will not be ours per se, but you know, it comes under our purview. It's in the library. The other thing I wanted to ask was,
Can I just explain one thing?
Yeah.
I would assume that the same Yeah, I sort of think there's sort of basic things about the display cases. I mean, because I was here when we put them up, you know, way back when, a long time ago. And, they just, I think it's really neat how, like the children's room has one, and they got some
Yeah.
sort of neat displays that they can put in, and I think that's the point of it. So that I assume that the Friends are gonna abide by the same, non-political, non-religious, what
Yeah.
all the other sort of guidelines that go into library displays.
I expect, based on the presentations that have been made, that the display will reflect the, funding that they have granted the library, you know, for, whatever purchases, you know, to advance the, betterment of the library. So it will reflect things like that, and it will include merchandise for, you know,
Yeah.
to encourage friends and friends
Right.
donations. Yeah, but yes, I think you're correct. The other thing I wanted to ask was what your opinion is, because, and Pam will join us, and so, or John may know. I know she reached a position working with Bob previously on whether these aggregate policies were ideal or to be broken apart. So I just wondered if you had a view on that, whether they should all be sort of this.
Aggregate, by
So-
topic or aggregate as a whole?
So we have a aggregate of financial policies
Right.
right now, and you made the point, claims audit is part of that. Do you agree with that sort of clustering? Or do you think they should be?
I see no reason for it not to be. I mean, I think I don't know that there's, you know, any sort of legal strictures
No,
as to
no.
why it's not. I think that policies should reflect reality, and I think that they should reflect, goals and their mission statement, and if they work together, I think that's fine. Okay,
Okay.
what I noticed about them was that there's a whole lot of them under the financial.
Yes,
They were
They're
done
like
at
six,
all
yeah.
at different times.
Yeah.
And some of them are duplicates, and I think that they should be looked at.
right.
You know,
cleaned
and
up.
I would like to have somebody, if I have any questions, you know.
Yeah.
Reach out to people.
Yeah, we would love the finance committee to be part of that. Okay, thank you. Anything?
No, oh, I'm sorry, no, I, this, no, I have nothing else to say. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Pam.
Hey, Pam. Perhaps, even though you're just joining us, Carolyn was going through the review she's been conducting of our various policies.
Oh,
and
great.
those that
Okay.
require, reaffirmation or updating. And one of the questions I was just asking, because I couldn't remember, I knew you had a position on this and I couldn't remember what it was. Whether our position is that the consolidation of numerous policies under, say, financial is a preferred format, or whether you intend to kind of break them up.
I think the board has to, I think that we have to weigh in. I mean, I do think that condensing takes the, you know, the pages off. I think we have so many policies.
Right.
But so having said all of that, if there are specific policies that you think should be noted, like say credit card policy, let's just use that for an example.
Right.
You could have that up and then say, see financial policy.
Right.
You could do that. So if there's some policies that you think really deserve attention and you don't want people to look for it,
Mhm. No, that's a good point. Carolyn generally is, you know, had stated, support for it where it makes sense. I think the financial policy, since we're focused on that grouping right now, generally would be lumped together for the ease of the community and, you know, for people who have questions about how we're conducting ourselves relative to the different financial aspects of the library. So from that perspective,
Mhm.
maybe it does make sense, right? That-
Well, I think that that's also why we also spend so much time with circulation on the fines and, you know, all these things that are part of borrowing books. So a financial policy is where you would find all things related to financial.
Right. Okay.
Can,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the protocol is. Is there a motion that has to get made to accept these,
So,
to reaffirm these?
To reaffirm the FOIL, to
And there's a whole
reaffirm
bunch.
the ALA one.
so
No,
what,
there's a whole bunch here, so
Okay.
that,
what we need to do
Mhm.
is have them all properly formatted, so,
Mhm.
so the committee, which includes you, will, work to do that and include them in the board packet for our next,
Okay, great.
probably regular meeting. If you
Okay.
feel it's more urgent, we could,
No, I don't think
address it.
No, we've just been working on it, so,
Okay.
okay, so that's no problem, we'll do that.
And we talked about, you know, our usual practice of legal review, except where it's something, you know, like an ALA policy.
Mhm. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. That's very, very helpful. So we're ready to proceed with
So,
Sally. Thank you, Sally. Can we pull up a chair?
Yeah.
All right.
So as you all know, I'm the head of technical services, which does not mean computers. Although I use them, we use them, but it does not mean I do not come and fix your computer. We're a department of two. I work with Lori Cohen, one of our clerks. And we, you know, seamlessly work together, just terrific. And, you know, she can do everything and it works really, really well. We work really well together. What we do is we, process adult books. And, we do about, I don't know, 250 of those a month. New books coming from, mostly from Baker and Taylor, but we also have, Amazon orders that come in, and the Amazon orders have to be covered. Baker and Taylor come pre-processed with covers. But the Amazon items will have to be covered by hand, by Lori and me. We also repair books. You know, water damage, well, I can't repair water damage, but rip pages, bindings, you know, loose, things like that. And we do about 25 of those a month, repairs. And we also repair the adult AV materials, DVDs, and audio books. And so we do about 10 of those a month. Those don't circulate as much as they used to, so they don't get broken as much as they used to. We also are the backup department for AV and magazine processing. The main processing for the AV and the magazines is done by Shinsei in the reference department. But when she's not around or she needs, you know, she has a overload, then, you know, we pitch and give her a hand. So that's the routine. Those are the routine things that we do. In addition to that, we also get involved with special projects, working closely with the reference department and librarians. So some of the things that we've done, the Learning Center collection was completely recatalogued, relabeled, and reorganized. Working with Denise on that. And then when WLS changed the designation for foreign language items to world, we had to change all of the books, the world language books and all of the DVDs. So we had about 900 books and about 850 DVDs that were completely, recataloged, relabeled, appropriately. We have, modest collection of opera DVDs, about 100, and they had been kept separate from the public and the double cases, and it was so at one point, Rebecca Rogan, who had been the head of adult services, decided that they could be on the shelf with everything else. So we, we relabeled those, recataloged and relabeled those as well. And before Rebecca left, we worked with her on taking a portion of the local history collection and enabling that to be a circulating collection out in the stacks where everybody could see it. Okay. Most recently, we've been working with Amy Berger on strenuous reading of audiobooks. And so we ended up, and it's a project that's still going on. So when it's all said and done, we will have recataloged and or recased, cleaned, whatever, about 1,800 audiobooks. So as I said, that's still going on. And then actually, this is something that's tangential to what Carolyn said earlier about the policy regarding discarded items. Until we're told otherwise, we have been processing discarded items for sustainable shelves. I mean, Rebecca and Vicky are aggressive weeders, and the last couple of months we've had about 700 books to scan through to sustainable shelves. Now, they don't accept all of them, but that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of books. And on a more average basis, maybe we do about 200 a month, but the last couple of months, it's been pretty high because, as I said, of the aggressive reading that's going on. And then if you've all seen on the new website, there is a section called the Library of Things, and that's what all these are. This is is a ukulele. This is a Chromebook computer. This is a hotspot, and there were no CD players for me to bring to show. But this is the type of things that are non-book items that we process as well. So, it can be a little challenging, not trying to put a barcode on a ukulele.
Right.
But, that's what we figure it out and we do it. And they require linking to the catalog, just like a book, and they require, physical processing, labeling, and that kind of thing. So it makes it interesting, and it is a little challenging, as I said, trying to find appropriate places to put barcodes and stickers and that kind of thing. So that's it. And then I myself, this is not really tech services duties, but it's things that I do myself. Is I have a regular schedule of CERT desk and reference desk shifts. I send out an email once a month to new patrons, welcoming them to the library. I do a report every month of items that are in damaged category to make sure everything's accounted for. I run a book group once a month. I supervise the adult pages. I get the books for the library sponsored book groups. We currently have 2 of those aside from mine. And I am frequently called on to proofread things because I have a bad habit of catching typos. So that's it.
Better be careful what you use.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have mentioned that
Right,
last thing.
right.
But anyway.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Adult programs would not be the same if it wasn't the CAP or Sally proofreading every one of our flyers, nothing goes out with her okay. And sometimes we call her
It's
the
a talent.
talents of the
Yeah.
library,
Yeah.
because she also finds little conflicts, maybe, if you will, between something that I might have done. So I really appreciate her input constantly.
Well, thank you, Joan. That was very nice for you to say that.
That's great.
Can I ask a question, Sal?
Absolutely.
When you, I'm sorry, when you remove items from circulation, is it ever because we don't have space to store these items, or is it just purely because they're?
I don't make a decision to remove something. I just physically do what needs to be done to get it out of the catalog and wherever it's going. The librarians are the ones who have their criteria waiting, and so that's a question that's best put to Denise. You know, I don't make decisions about what stays and what goes. I just, you know, take what they give me and
Execute.
yeah.
If you don't have, the library shelf is not supposed to be more than 85% full, otherwise you have no place to reshelf or to put new things, and so. Every library in the world is just, there's just a constant reading process that goes on, and as she said, they're. Sometimes they're damaged, they're not read, they're, you know, they've searched how many times it's been out in the last couple of years, and currency, and yeah, you know. Media type is not being used anymore, so.
Is there need for more storage in the library, or that just cause us to hoard more?
Well, the question of what you're
can't
gonna.
wait to hear this answer.
You want me to answer that?
Question of what you're gonna store. I mean, once you've just started cassettes, because nobody plays cassettes any longer, I mean, there's almost, why store them, you know? Why do that? If you're gonna store books because you want to sell them at the friend's book sale, I mean, that's another issue, but, I think, is there an institution like my house in the world that doesn't have enough storage, you
Right,
know?
right.
So, I'm not sure. So,
But I imagine there are certain titles that we have many copies of because they're very popular, or do we keep them all out on the shelves, or do they keep some back?
you know, I know what I did before, but I think this is this library, you should answer.
Well,
that.
we do have items available in storage. The children's room and the adult section have. It's not a big collection, but they are identified as being in storage. They're backup copies for, you know, some of the more popular things. And they're available, they're visible in the catalog. Patrons can put holds on them. But you know, again, it's not a huge amount.
Mhm. Thank you.
I wanted to ask, where, I think the Library of Things is so interesting. I've read a lot of articles about how other libraries approach this. Like, what could you envision, you know, us expanding into outside of the current Library of Things?
Like what other kinds of things?
Yeah.
Well, again, that's probably more of a question for Carolyn, you know, or the librarians, you know, their wish lists, so to speak. I know many libraries, some libraries do sewing machines. What just the library system in itself also, I think, has sewing machines to lend. Some libraries do sewing machines. Lots of libraries, you know, things like games that they lend out. You know, it could really be anything, like I said, but it's probably more like, you know, ask any of the librarians what's on their wish list, and
Right.
you know, they probably would have a very extensive answer for you.
Yeah. I've read about like children's fishing poles and,
Oh, wow.
you know, just
Yeah,
different things.
well, I think the children's room has the Mr. Lunetta backpacks.
Yeah, we have the discovery bags in
Yeah.
honor of Mr. Lunetta, and they have binoculars and magnifying glasses and field guides and cool stuff like that.
It's great. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Thank you so much. I think that we all agreed that, we best needed to gain a better understanding of your department, so.
Oh,
Well,
well,
very helpful.
okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, for some reason, I had an incorrect listing on the agenda. That's next month, right? Yeah, thank you, Chantel. Okay, shall we move into the committee reports? Turning to finance first?
Sure. First bullet point, the updated Rocky Smith agreement was signed.
Great.
And, they've already begun the first part, which is, reviewing the bank reconciliation.
Yeah.
So they've got started on that. I would suggest after the first, maybe 2 months, we sort of sit down with them and kind of get a sense of what their feeling is as to where we stand, because it is expensive. So maybe we move then towards an every other month or
Quarterly or?
quarterly, something like that, but you know, we'll go through the first process with them. KFOD, the next bullet point, they've been responded to, and Chantel has told me that this week she'll finish preparing all the materials they'll need for when they come in physically. So that'll be good.
That's fantastic.
Claims audit process we reviewed with Carolyn, and it seems like everything is in order.
Well, it's in the policies, yeah, I think so, yeah, looks fine to me.
Process of, you know, 2 trustees reviewing. Something to think about, which is further down on the list, is as we move to electronic, how we alter that process. And we can talk about that a little further down. Clarifying issues with Valley Bank, so George, Chantel, and I spoke with Valley Bank actually last Friday. She was very responsive with us. And they have a product called ICS, Insured Cash Sweep. It would cost us nothing additional in expenses. She confirmed that the interest rate would likely be 4.25%, which compared to a 10-year treasury at 4.6%, 30-year treasury at 4.7%, and AAA corporate bond 5.5%. It's pretty attractive. And we had asked the question also about whether we can earn a higher return on some of our investments. And given that our primary concern is liquidity and capital preservation, it probably doesn't make sense to, you know, move out for just a little bit of incremental return, but we would also have associated costs. Probably not liquidity issue. Costs. So the ICS is something that would be pretty easy to implement. Chantel felt comfortable. We would have full access to the liquidity at any time.
When we first discussed ICS a couple months back, I remember you had some concerns, and we were just learning about it, as to who would the sweep organizations be? Who were those financial institutions? Do we have like a schedule or?
So the idea is that they're all FDIC insured institutions, so that, and then you would have under the FDIC limit, so that regardless of the institution, even in a worst case scenario, you would still be insured in each of those accounts.
I believe Deb said that there were certain banks that we didn't want to invest in, that we could opt out of it.
So she said there was an issue if we had like a separate account with JP Morgan Chase, they would pull JP Morgan Chase out so that it wouldn't affect the, so there is, but it wasn't, you know, like we pick and choose the banks, that's their job to do the due diligence.
Right. Okay.
And so I think she's actually sent us the paperwork, so we can circulate that to review.
Okay. Thank you for that. I
And she
remember.
also spoke briefly to the health of the Valley Bank.
Mhm.
She said that these 2 banks that went under out in Silicon Valley,
Right.
that they were on the short list to take them over.
Mhm.
And she said that, you know, the feds were not going to just give that to anybody that wasn't, you know,
Right.
in strong financial standing.
Okay.
Thanks. Good to hear. And then regarding the EFTs and online checking, there wouldn't really be much in the way of additional costs. And it's something that we should think about moving towards, because it's certainly helpful in terms of fraud prevention and probably could automate a lot of the stuff we're doing. I think we need to just think through on our end how we would create a process where the trustees can then, you know, go through, review the supporting detail, and then just approve.
Like monthly bills
Yeah.
list, right?
So
No.
rather than do the physical printouts and that, so just to make sure the checks and balances are.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Chantal, you thought that would be a positive change, right? To go to the
Absolutely.
electronic.
That's great. Thank you. That sounds very exciting. Move us a few decades forward. One thing I wanted to ask, because I remember we had a kind of confused discussion with our prior library director on the subject of, remember he was suggesting that the FDIC protection didn't apply only once, but that the bank account was in the name of the board and the library, so maybe there were 6 250K protections.
I don't think that would be
And we
accurate.
sort of went, what? So I just wanted to ask if you could sort of clear that up, so
I can look into that, but that wouldn't be accurate.
it didn't make sense. Yeah, so,
I would hope that our names are not on the account.
Right.
That would be. That would be good.
You are signers on the account.
pardon?
You are signers on the account, but I
Right,
think
but
he was
that's
confused
different.
in thinking that you had to have. You had to open up several different bank accounts across multiple banks to
Yeah.
have the FDIC coverage. I
Yeah.
think
He
was his
was,
thought
he was
process.
very definitive that we had 250K protection across, I believe, 6
No,
on a
it would be
6-time
for
basis.
institution, so.
I know,
Yeah.
it literally made no sense to me, but I just wanted to sort of put that to rest.
Yeah, I think that.
Okay, thank you.
And then on endowments, we haven't done any work there yet, so that's to be continued.
Well, and honestly, that, we're kind of plunking that in your lap, Carolyn, I think, right? I don't think there's any further work the committee can do besides to oversee, right? We need staff to review historical files and try and,
Can somebody talk to me about this?
I can
yeah,
follow up.
yeah.
Okay.
I think also these monies are pumped in as opposed to being in a separate account. These,
They're commingled, yeah.
right, they're commingled, so I think we had discussed this at a prior meeting, that would be better to have those in their own individual accounts.
Well, I think the key will be to figure out if that, sometimes that's a requirement of an endowment, that it not be commingled. And if that's the case, then we need to comply. If it's not the case, it is more work.
Most financial institutions today have the technology to track them in sub-accounts, but we
Yeah.
want to make sure that they're being
Yeah.
utilized
Right,
and tracked.
Good point.
right, but I mean, the interest that's earned in them, it's in a commingled account. Unless we do that, it's in our ledger, where every time an interest payment is made to the account in general, we're carving out that portion that's attributable to the specific fund and saying that that's now increased the value of the fund. I don't know if anybody is up to doing that every single month to see how
Right.
much of the interest payments
I see.
should go to that.
Okay. Okay. I also did promise to look back at historical financials to see, because I had this dim memory that Joe Gallo may have broken out endowments at one point in time when he was our treasurer, so I have not done that, and I will, check their financials. Okay. Anything further for finance? Okay, Pam, for building and grounds. So as a reminder, we have obtained a site plan analysis from KG&D, the architects KG&D, inclusive of partner they work with for landscape architecture. The plans are exciting, but they in aggregate total approximately $6 million. So it's certainly nothing we can manage out of current financials. We have had conversations about prioritization, and, I keep using the term chunking, different aspects of the plan. The intention was to meet with we were invited to present with KG&D to the, school board, Board of Education Facilities Committee, and that was meant to take place tomorrow. However, that meeting has been postponed because their facilities director, I may be misstating the title there, but it's something like that, Joe Gramando, who we've had such a great relationship with, has retired. Either has or is retiring.
Retired
Yeah.
last Friday.
Okay, thank you. And I believe he's going to stay on to some degree on a
Some,
consultative basis.
Consultant.
Yeah,
That's right, consultant.
but they are looking to replace him and would like that individual to be part of the meeting. So more to follow in that regard. Chantel, you've done a great job keeping us up to speed in terms of the theater AV project. Any developments beyond the target installation of February?
Just February.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm trying to coordinate with them to figure out what we're doing with the previous motor.
Right,
Cause I don't think they had a plan just yet, but
okay,
aside from that, we're just starting February.
okay. Thank you. We have had a drafted plan for the children's area, design and furniture reimagining, Project Wonder. We need to work those additional inputs into the RFP. We'll have it available for approval by the board at the next meeting. I've also been presented with a draft RFP. We've been presented with a draft RFP for the roof electrical panel, and the good news is the estimate on that probable cost has dropped from approximately 35,000 to 25,000, so that's good news. We'll review that RFP and present it for board approval, possibly at the special meeting if we can get that done in time. I don't have any update. Certainly no RFP has yet been drafted for the weekend cleaners. I think that's still in the planning stages. And I know that our consultant is reaching out to engineers relative to the stream management. So that's really all I've got on building and grounds. Anything additional you can think of, Pam or Chantel?
There is a proposal in from Suburban for the pest controls
Oh,
that I'll send
okay,
over to you guys.
okay, thank you.
Can you say that again, Chantel?
A proposal was received for Suburban Pest Control to compete with JP McHale. And do you guys mind going back to the financials so that you guys can make the resolution to add the 2 new board members of Carolyn to the bank account as signers?
Oh, absolutely.
I have it here if you want to read it like verbatim.
Sure.
Okay.
Do you want to put it in front of Brian and
Yeah,
he
sure.
can make the motion? Thank you. I think we really only need to add Carolyn because I know,
I need the full resolution now because it was just in your minutes or your agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
thank you.
Resolution authorized signatures for the following library bank accounts, whereas the Chappaqua Central School District Public Library Board of Trustees have fiduciary responsibilities for all library funds. Whereas the library has opened Valley Bank to provide banking services, be it resolved, the Chappaqua Central School District Public Library Board of Trustees has approved the following: Valley Bank checking and money market accounts. Add authorized signatories effective November 13th, 2023. Harold Resnick, George Manette, John Harrison. Resolution approved and adopted on this day, November 13th, 2023.
Do we second a resolution? Like a motion? Chantel?
I don't recall them doing such. If you want to handle it that way, though, you can.
Okay, I'll second the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? Great. Thank you, Chantel.
Thank you.
The other thing I thought of, Chantel, is we do have the additional proposals from Stratagem.
Yes,
So, we may,
those are up and you guys can vote on them or you can put them to the side.
I don't have the, oh, they're in the packet?
They're in the packet. You should have them within your packet that I gave you earlier. Likely to be like the last 4 pages.
You know what I don't have is Dean wonderful email clarifying the purpose of each of these, because they're written in extremely technical language. I can pull it up too.
I have it.
Okay, so we have 3 proposals from our security vendor, also responsible for our burglary and fire. I just want to line up the descriptions with the okay, so I believe that proposal 4842 for $4,520.68 aligns with the addition of access control for the custodial entrance from the library, which is that door or the double doors?
The double doors.
The double doors. Which was not included because the locking mechanism on the door wasn't working and needed to be replaced, which has now been done. We additionally needed to replace the camera at that same entrance, which had not been identified as part of the initial installation. Are you guys accepting of me making I'll make a motion that the board authorize our interim library director to proceed with Stratagem Security for proposal 4842 for $4,520.68.
Give that.
Yeah, the amount?
Yeah.
4520.68.
Got it.
For the addition of the access control and the replacement of the camera at that one location. Do I have a second? Am seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And tell I apologize. Okay, then. We have, I'll make a motion to permit our interim library director to proceed with the proposal number 4843 from Stratagem Security for the amount of $8,600 This is for the inspection and annual testing of our burglary and fire system. Cleaning, relative to the video system, cleaning, focusing and adjusting all cameras, as well as checking all server server settings. And third, addressing, basically maintaining the access control system, changing all batteries, as well as physical inspections. Wait a second. And any discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Without the mic. And forgive me, I'm not finding the receiver installation. Oh, here. That was 4842.
It's right here. 8,840, it's at the bottom of this one right here, underneath, is that it? No.
Their paperwork is less than perfect. Unfortunately.
It's, page 52 on the back.
The camera replacement with cable. Is that this?
What number on the proposal is that? Forgive me. 4843, went through that. Maybe they combined the two. There's a proposal 4844, but I can't find costing associated with it.
And there's no proposal for 4843.
No, there is. That's the one you just pointed out.
Page 48, proposal number
4843.
Right? Was 8,600, which we just approved. So that's the servicing. 84.
84.
84, 46. Or 4843.
Yeah.
So,
It's just it right
4560. I think I missed the page. I apologize.
here.
And then there's a service agreement.
So I think it's down here. Is it not?
Yeah. The receiver is 4842. This one is your receiver. Yeah. Of 4520. Okay, everyone, I'm gonna have to make a correction. I apologize. I'll withdraw the prior motion regarding proposal 4842. And instead propose that the board approve the interim library director to proceed with stratagem security with proposal 4842 for the replacement of the receiver for our security system for a total of $4,520.68. Apologies, can I trouble you for a second again?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Apologies for the confusion.
All right.
So then the other one
Right.
is 4,843. And that one is for 84. That's for the
Okay.
additional walks and the camera.
Okay.
Here's something.
So again, apologies, since I misstated the proposal number, I'll request, board approval to permit the interim library director to proceed with stratagem security relative to proposal 4843 for the amount of $8,484.46, which represents the, addition of the access control for the double door custodian entrance by the gallery walk, as well as the camera replacement, basically the proposal I requested before with incorrect pricing and proposal number. Is that not, too confusing? Yeah, I have a second for Pam. Apologies for that. All in favor? All right. Thank you. My apologies for that. I should have written it out. Okay. Well, that is a conclusion of building and grounds. Shall we move to personnel, John?
No. Employee handbook update. There was a meeting. I wasn't at it. Have you there?
I was there.
Yeah.
And I was
So you can speak to it, and like which was the approval of the calendar, right? I wasn't there. I'm not able to speak about it.
I was there and I'm stammering over my words.
So we reviewed the
Correct.
updated version of the employee handbook, which we hope to roll out for the start of 2024. We raised some questions for council, some suggested edits, et cetera, and we actually very carefully went through all of that. To better understand some of the language they were presenting and to make sure that some of our concerns were addressed. So now the handbook is, the ball is back in the court of council to reflect that discussion in a revised version, which we will then vet with the rest of, the basically informal committee we had put together, which included our library director, and so that will include you, Carolyn, as well as Chantel Pena and Marge Perlin. And
Okay.
we'll ask them to review that second draft. And hopefully proceed to finalization.
So as of right now, we don't have a holiday schedule for 2024.
We know.
We really.
That is in your packet, if you guys want to look at it and approve it if you can this evening, but
Is there a holiday? That's
there is a holiday schedule for the following year. It's already in the board packet.
the question is whether it's been approved.
So
No.
what should we do?
No, we're
Right.
hoping for you guys to approve.
Right. That was something that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah,
So the question is, can we approve the holiday schedule for 2024, or do we need to wait on that? And the reason I bring it up is because I know that Marge was eager to.
yeah, of course, it's required for the benefit system. Unfortunately, I think we're going to receive their final comments and the revised version this week. And we'll be able to then share that and vote on the holiday schedule at the next meeting. But there were issues that were brought up, and I think I've certainly CC'd you, Carolyn. I hopefully have CC'd Marge as well, and Chantel. One of the issues that's been raised by a few members of the public at this point is we had a 2-day closure for Veterans Day, and we've discussed why that is. It's the observed holiday as well as the actual holiday. And there's some question as to whether that, had been specifically approved by the board, which we're researching. But one of the statements we made to council is that we don't want that, you know, whatever may have been permissible under the current version of the handbook, that we don't want that to reoccur. So I haven't seen language as to how they're going to clarify that. I forget whether they were recommending that we proceed with actual or observed. But I know they had a basis for it.
They did.
Based in law, et cetera. So we'll see what they come back with. But I think, for example, you know, we could have some of that proposed for 2024. So we've got to put that to bed.
Okay.
That's all I have on that.
There has been a discussion around webmaster. It's in the agenda here, and I think we reached sort of a temporary conclusion. We're going to leave this issue in the hands of the director to sort out, and that she will report back to us.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, so this, you're waiting for council to come back about the holiday schedule for next year?
Because we were making some changes to that section, not to, you know, I can't look at this and see a particular holiday. I don't think the actual holidays are changing. You know, it's basically the federal holidays and the historical closures that we've had for many years. And I don't expect that to change. I just am reluctant to, you know, approve this because we are changing things like making sure there isn't a double closure. Okay.
Can
We
I
had a
ask-
situation.
can I
Yeah,
ask a
please.
question?
Yeah.
So if the 4th of July, occurs on a Saturday, then only the people who work on that day would have that day off? Or so there would be no observation of that holiday for people who don't work on weekends?
Again, I forgive me, I don't remember whether it was council's recommendation that we go basically to speak for what we are going to propose to the board in the form of this revised handbook. Our recommendation is one day, either observed or actual, and they were going to come back to us with what is more typical of peer libraries, et cetera. I just don't remember whether it was observed or actual.
Because it's important to know that people have different schedules.
Right.
So if someone were to, work on, if they chose to do it on the observed, which would of course not fall on a weekend, then the observed fell on a weekend, we would be open on the observed, and people who work on the observed day would have to work. And just as a matter of fact, when I wrote the holiday schedule for last year, I have holiday schedules going back for many years, so that I can see the last time that Veterans Day occurred on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And it was approved at a board meeting last September.
Okay, thank you.
The one thing, Marge, I just wanted to point out, just for the record, was that because we had gotten a couple of complaints sent to the website regarding this, was I went and just did a brief survey of Westchester County libraries regarding that Friday, Saturday closure. And we were an outlier. Many libraries had picked one, either the Friday or the Saturday. Very few libraries had done both.
Yeah.
And I get the employee sort of vacation issue and stuff.
Scheduling nightmares, yeah.
But having 2 consecutive days, and one of them being a Saturday when libraries are so heavily used, it's just sort of like it's a thing.
I understand that, and in the case of Veterans Day, I agree with you. Yeah. In the case of 4th of July, I do not. It's a much more popular holiday, and I would hate to have people have to come in and work on that day.
Yeah.
Also, that's a nice day in the summer that people like to have a long weekend, so if you're working one of those days, you have really no long weekend at all. Right. So that's something to consider.
Okay, yeah. Facility manager issues, I don't think I've anything on that. And then
Well, you'll look into that,
I
right?
will be looking into that just a little bit, ASAP.
Thank you.
Looking into that, let me put that right in there.
And that may be something Carolyn can assist with as well, sorry, take the hot potato. The consideration of whether, our current arrangement with a consultant, where frankly, we struggled to get the time allocation that we would like, and that I think our library needs.
Versus facilities manager, this is Bill?
Exactly,
Okay.
versus a, full or part-time hired employee. And so it'd be interesting, as you communicate with, as you've done, on other issues, as you communicate with peer library directors to see, how other libraries are managing that, responsibility, whether they have a part-time, full-time hire a consultant, et cetera. So that we can take that into consideration and think about how we, can best move forward. I also have no, knowledge of, what typical salaries are for that type of position. We should look at a job description that, civil service job description, et cetera.
So who's the board person that I speak to?
That
John,
would be me. And then I believe, Chantel, we finalized all the sort of payment issues regarding our former library director.
Yes.
those are the best, but
Put to bed.
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
That's it.
On to me.
Yeah. It's not much there.
Okay,
And we may have addressed much of it.
okay, so did you address the credit card policy that's living?
No,
Okay,
no.
so there is a credit card policy that already exists,
Mhm.
and that lies in our financial policy. So,
That aggregate kind of.
right, so again, the decision just has to be made to either move it out, keep it on its own, or keep it within the financial. The updating of the purchasing and bidding policy, well, it's already been looked at by BSK. I have made numerous requests of the board to take a look at it. I think it's fine for putting up.
Just, let's put it in the
I
packet
think
and
it's,
vote
I
on
think
it.
it's up. right?
There's two of them,
Yes.
purchasing and bidding.
One is procedural and one is policy.
One is regs and one is policies, yeah.
Mhm.
So I looked at them briefly, but not
Mhm.
focused a lot.
I believe our council said we could go with one.
Correct, which would be the policy.
Yeah.
Which I believe is what they have, marked up.
Right.
Okay, and I'll triple check
And
that.
I think we've talked about the thresholds and whether those should change and decided to keep them.
Yes,
as
we
is.
did decide to keep them. There was
So by all
discussion
means.
about that. The new claims audit policy, I've spoken with Carolyn, Brian, and Chantel about it. And basically, what it is, it's, Carolyn helped us write up basically how we do things here. And that will become our policy. And
Okay, so this is the purchasing and bidding policy?
yeah, no, the new claims audit policy, the system that we have in place.
Which is part of that blended.
It's part of
financial.
this huge, big financial
Correct,
policy
correct.
thing. So,
So we'll
when
just
I read
update
that
it.
through, it sounded as though the procedures were in place here.
Correct. It's just a matter of, do you want it on its own? Or do you want it to live
Within the financial policy.
in the financial policy?
And before you get back, I made the suggestion that I look at the financial policy altogether. Because they're added at all sorts of different times. And, they've been approved or reaffirmed at all sorts of different dates.
So
So I
let's
was,
on that.
I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah, so we can work on that.
I thought we could work on that.
Absolutely, that would be great. And we can
Okay.
also, I do think, as we've done in other policies, alphabetizing them is very clear cut.
Good idea.
Okay,
It's the simple thing.
it is. So we'll work on that.
Okay.
We'll get another meeting, Carolyn.
Thank you. Anything else?
No,
I would add that, because we didn't tell the broader board, we did reach out to council who helped us with the charter amendment request
mhm,
to see if there was any update, and they agreed to check in with the New York regions and circle back to us if there's any information. But basically, they indicated that you just kind of have to sit in silence and wait to hear.
well, won't that also be an issue with the upcoming
Yes.
election?
It's,
Okay,
it's key. We need to know how
Mhm.
we
how we,
prepare.
okay. And then, okay, we don't have this yet. Want me to talk about the library search committee, or George will do communications?
Should we turn to communications, George?
Okay, the new website was launched on 11/1, great. I tried out several different features myself, worked fantastic. I was able to reserve a study room. It was flawless, it really was a pleasure. Town Wing informed us that there was some community feedback, a very positive response. Someone thought it was one of the best websites they've ever seen for a library. And so that was great to hear. There was also an issue about, I mentioned about possibly posting signage about video surveillance within the library, and that's being taken under advisement. And that's it.
That's one of the issues we're vetting with council
Mhm.
in terms of what's our obligation, what's appropriate. Yeah, I think the new website's incredibly exciting. I love it.
It's great.
Nice to see. Anything additional? No?
That's it.
Okay. Back
Search
to
committee.
Pam for search committee.
Okay, so an update on the search committee. We interviewed a candidate who has declined to move forward in the process. And we have a meeting tomorrow to discuss where we are in our job postings on a variety of other sites, what the activity has been. And which I can't answer right now because it's been a long weekend and I've been away. And that's it. And the committee, with the addition of Carolyn, continues to be working well together, and we meet tomorrow.
Great. Okay. Anything in addition that we need to note or discuss? No? No? Anything from staff present? No. Okay, great. All right, then we're just noting, the next meetings will take place on, December 7th, 2023. We'll hold our special meeting, with the board packet due November 30th, and, followed by our regular meeting on December 11th, with the board packet due December 4th. And if we don't have anything else, you want to go adjourn? I'll second.
One favor? Aye. Good.
Unanimous?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Chantel, thank you for managing all the technology with this meeting.